You opened a letter from Centerlink, or maybe you're waiting for one, and something in the back of your mind keeps whispering that the rules have shifted again while you weren't looking. You're right. They have. 3 money changes are landing on Australian pensioners right now. Not next year. Now. Get caught on the wrong side of any one of them, and you could lose hundreds of dollars a fortnight or miss a payment you were fully entitled to. Here's the part nobody says out loud. These changes weren't hidden. They were just buried in language nobody bothered to translate for you. I know, because I've been sitting in those Centerlink chairs since the 1990s, watching the numbers move. And I'll show you exactly what to do about all 3, including one small entitlement at the end that could put thousands of dollars back in your pocket this year, tied to an income threshold most people have never even heard of. Whether you're on the full pension, part pension, or none at all yet, at least one of these lands squarely on you. So stay with me. Let me start with the one that scares me the most, because it moves quietly and it hits everyone with savings in the bank. It's called deeming. And if you've never really understood that word, you are not alone. I didn't either, until it cost a friend of mine nearly $40 a fortnight and she never saw it coming. Here's what deeming actually means, in plain English. Centerlink does not care how much interest your bank is really paying you. They pretend. They assume your money is earning a certain rate, and they count that pretend income against your pension. That pretend rate is the deeming rate. For years now, those deeming rates have been frozen. The lower rate sat at 0.25%. The upper rate sat at 2.25%. That freeze started back during the pandemic, and it has protected millions of pensioners from having phantom income counted against them. But here is the ticking clock. That freeze was never permanent. It has been extended, budget by budget, right up to the middle of 2025, and the moment it lifts, the government can raise those deeming rates back toward where interest rates have actually gone. Think about what that means. Interest rates climbed hard over the last couple of years. If the deeming rate is allowed to climb back up to match, Centerlink will suddenly assume your savings are earning far more than they were. More assumed income means less pension, and you won't have earned a single extra dollar in real life. Let me put a number on it so you feel the weight of it. Say you're a single pensioner with around $80,000 in the bank. Under the frozen upper rate, only a small slice of that is deemed as income. But if that upper rate jumped from 2.25% back up toward 4% or higher, the deemed income counted against you could rise by well over $1,000 a year. For a couple with more savings, it's worse. And here's who's counting on you not noticing. When deeming rates rise, the government's pension bill drops automatically. No new law needs a big debate. No headline needs to run. It happens in a table on a Services Australia page, and your payment simply comes back smaller one fortnight. Most people just assume they did something wrong. So, here is what to do, and you can do it this week. Log in to your MyGov account, go to the Centerlink section, and check your latest income and assets summary. Look at the figure listed as deemed income. Write it down. If your next statement shows that number jumping without you adding any money, that is the deeming rate moving, and you have every right to question it. Better still, call Services Australia on the Older Australians line and ask them directly what deeming rate is being applied to your financial assets right now. Make them tell you the number, because if you know the number, you cannot be quietly shortchanged by it. That's the first change, and it's the one hiding in plain sight. But the second one is bigger, and it's coming for a group who thought they were untouchable, because this next change doesn't hit the pension directly, it hits your superannuation. And that's where a lot of people relax, thinking their super is safe and settled. And if you want to go deeper than what a single video can hold, I've put everything into a resource built specifically for this moment. I've written it across 3 guides: Pension First, Pension Edge, and the full system. And together they walk you through every threshold, every test, and every entitlement in plain language, the same way I've been talking to you today. If you want to have all of this in one place, the details are in the description below. But that's not the part that made me sit up. Therefore, let me show you why that comfort is about to be tested. On the 1st of July, 2025, the superannuation guarantee hit 12%. That's the amount an employer must pay into super. Now, on the surface, that sounds like good news, and for younger workers it is. But if you're still working part-time in your 60s or even your 70s, and plenty of us are, this change quietly reshapes your pay packet and your pension test at the same time. Here's the trap. More money going into your super means your super balance grows. And a growing super balance, once you reach pension age, gets counted under the assets test and the income test. So the very thing designed to help you can nudge you over a threshold and shave your pension without you ever choosing to save an extra cent. But that's not the part that made me sit up. The part that made me sit up is a brand new tax that most ordinary Australians assume could never touch them. It's called Division 296, and the government designed it to tax the earnings on very large super balances, those above $3 million, at an extra 15%. Now I can hear you already. You're thinking, I don't have $3 million in super, so this is not my problem. Slow down. Because here is the detail buried in the fine print. And it's the detail the advocacy groups have been shouting about. That $3 million threshold is not indexed. Let me say that again, because it matters. It does not rise with inflation. It is frozen at $3 million, year after year after year. And we all know what happens to a fixed number over time. Inflation eats away underneath it, and slowly, quietly, more and more ordinary people drift up toward it. A younger worker today, with decades of 12% contributions and normal market growth, could easily reach that so-called rich person threshold by the time they retire. And there's a second sting. This tax is calculated on unrealized gains. That means it can tax the paper value of an asset that has gone up on paper, even if you haven't sold anything and haven't seen a dollar of that money in your hand. For someone with a self-managed super fund holding a farm or a small commercial property, that is a genuine nightmare. You could owe tax on a gain you cannot actually spend and be forced to sell the very thing your retirement was built on. So who's counting on the confusion here? Whoever set a threshold and refused to index it knows exactly what happens over 10 or 20 years. The number stays still, the money moves, and a tax sold as touching only the wealthy slowly reaches down toward the middle. That's not an accident, that's a design. Now here's your protective step, and it's simpler than the fear makes it feel. If you have a self-managed super fund, or any super balance above about $2 million, this is the year to sit down with your fund and ask one question. Ask them to show you your total super balance across every fund you hold, added together, because it's the combined figure that counts, not each account on its own. If you're a couple, get both figures. Know where you stand relative to that $3 million line, because you cannot plan around a number you've never looked at. And if you're nowhere near it, then your job is different, but just as important. Your job is to remember that an unindexed threshold is a warning sign wherever it appears, because the same trick shows up all over the pension system. Which brings me to the third change, and this is the one that touches almost every single person watching, because this third change is about the pension thresholds themselves, the income test, the assets test, the exact cutoff lines that decide whether you get a full pension, a part pension, or nothing at all. Twice a year, on the 20th of March and the 20th of September, those numbers move. The pension rates go up, which everyone celebrates, but the thresholds move too, and that's the part that trips people up. Let me give you the real figures, because vague talk helps nobody. As things stand in 2025, the full single-age pension, including the supplements, sits at around $1,149 a fortnight. For a couple, it's around $1,732 combined per fortnight. Those are the numbers landing in bank accounts right now. Now here's the trap inside the good news. To get the full pension under the assets test, a single homeowner can hold assets up to around $345,000, not counting the family home. A couple who own their home can hold around $518,000. Go $1 over, and you shift onto the part pension. Keep climbing, and eventually you hit the upper cutoff, where the pension stops entirely. For a single homeowner, that upper cutoff sits at roughly $695,000 in assets. For a homeowning couple, it's a bit over $1 million combined. These lines move every indexation, and here's what almost nobody realizes. When the thresholds shift, some people who were cut off last year quietly become eligible again this year, and they never find out, because Centrelink does not chase you to give you money. Let me say that plainly. The system will happily reduce your payment the moment you go over a line. But when a line moves in your favor, nobody sends you a letter saying, "Come back, you qualify now." That silence is the whole game. I learned this the hard way watching my own brother-in-law. He got knocked back for a part pension years ago, right on the edge of the assets test. He assumed that was that. Forever. He didn't reapply for 3 years. When he finally did, on a hunch, after the thresholds had climbed, he qualified. 3 years of part pension he could have had, gone, because he believed one rejection was permanent. Do not make that mistake. Now, this is the moment I need to talk directly to the person who's been sitting there thinking none of this applies to them. Maybe you're thinking, I'm a self-funded retiree, I don't get a cent from Centerlink, so this is not my video. Or maybe you're thinking, I did everything right years ago, my paperwork is sorted, I don't need to check anything. Or maybe you're only 58, not on the pension yet, and you reckon this is a problem for future you. I need you to hear me. Those 3 assumptions are exactly the ones that cost people the most. Start with the self-funded retiree who gets nothing from Centerlink. You might think you're invisible to the system, and in a way you've chosen to be. But the thresholds I just described mean that if your investments have dipped or your assets have fallen with the market, you could have crossed back under the cutoff without noticing. A part pension, even a small one, is not just money. It's the key that unlocks the pensioner concession card, cheaper medicines, discounts on rates, on registration, on power bills. People walk away from thousands of dollars a year in concessions because they're too proud or too certain to reapply. Now the person who did everything right years ago, here's the hard truth. Doing it right in 2020 or 2022 means nothing if the rules changed in 2025. This system does not reward you for past correctness. It only reads your current numbers against the current lines. If you haven't checked your income and assets details in the last 12 months, you are relying on a photograph of your life that may already be out of date. And if your details are wrong in Centerlink's favor, they will not correct it for you. And the person who's 58, not there yet. You are the one with the most power and the least urgency. And that's a dangerous mix. Every decision you make in these last few working years, how much goes into super, how you hold your savings, whether you own your home, sets the starting position for your entire retirement. The unindexed thresholds we talked about will be waiting for you. The deeming rules will be waiting for you. The person who plans at 58 walks into pension age in control. The person who ignores it walks in and takes whatever they're given. So here is the one concrete step every single one of you can take this week. No advisor required. Log in to MyGov, open Centerlink, and find the Income and Assets section. Read every figure listed there as if you were a stranger checking someone else's file. Is the value of your car right? Your savings? Your shares? Your contents? Which, by the way, are valued at second-hand garage sale prices, not what you paid? People routinely overstate their household contents by tens of thousands of dollars and lose pension over furniture that's worth almost nothing. Fix those numbers, and you may lift your payment the very next fortnight. If you're not in the system at all, then your step is to use the Payment Finder tool on the Services Australia website and run your real numbers through it. It's free, it's anonymous, and it will tell you in minutes whether you'd qualify today. That 5-minute check is the difference between guessing and knowing, because guessing is exactly what they're counting on. And that brings me to the part I've been saving, the part that turns all this fear into something you can actually use. Everything I've told you so far has been about protecting what you've already got. But there's a change that works the other way. There's an entitlement sitting right now that can put real money back in your hands, and it's tied to a threshold that jumps so far most people can't believe they qualify. It's the Commonwealth Seniors Health Card. And I want you to listen closely, because the old rules kept hundreds of thousands of self-funded retirees locked out for years. This card is not for pensioners. That's the whole point. It's for people over pension age who don't get the pension, usually because they've got too much in assets or income. For decades, the income limit to get this card was low enough that anyone with a decent super pension was shut out, so people never applied. They assumed the door was closed, then the door swung wide open. The income threshold was lifted dramatically. As things stand now, a single person can earn up to around $99,025 a year and still qualify. A couple can earn up to around $158,440 combined and still qualify. Those numbers are enormous compared to the old limits. And crucially, this card is not asset tested at all. It doesn't matter how much you have in the bank or in shares. It only looks at your income. Now here's why this matters in dollars, not theory. The Commonwealth Seniors Health Card gets you cheaper prescription medicines under the Pharmaceutical Benefits Scheme. For someone on regular medication, that alone can save hundreds, even over $1,000 a year. It gets you bulk billed doctor visits more easily. It can unlock extra state and territory concessions on your electricity, your car registration, your rates, and it entitles you to certain government supplements paid directly into your account. And here's the detail that makes it feel like a secret. Because the income test uses your taxable income plus certain deemed amounts, a self-funded retiree drawing an account-based pension from super started before a certain date may have very little counted income at all. Some people with genuinely comfortable retirement still slide in under that threshold and qualify. But they never find out, because they took one look at the word self-funded and assumed the government had nothing for them. I want you to picture the specific person this rescues. A widow in her 70s, living on a modest super pension and a bit of interest, who's been paying full price for her medications for years because she was told she had too much money for the pension. She has never once been told about this card because the pension knocked her back and she thought that was the end of the conversation. She could be saving over $1,000 a year this year, and it would take one application. So here is exactly what to do, step by step. Go to the Services Australia website and search for the Commonwealth Seniors Health Card. Read the income test with your own real figure in mind, remembering the limits are around $99,000 for a single and around $158,000 for a couple. If you're anywhere near or under those numbers and you're over age pension age, you apply. You can lodge the claim through your MyGov account linked to Centrelink or with a paper form if you prefer to hold something in your hands. You will need your tax return details and your income information. That's it. And do not talk yourself out of it. This is the single most underclaimed entitlement I know of for older Australians who don't get the pension. The threshold was lifted precisely so more of you could get in, and the quiet truth is that plenty of people who could apply simply never do. There's one more piece I promised, and it's the partner to the card, especially if you're still doing a bit of work. It's called the work bonus. If you're of pension age and you earn income from working, the first $300 a fortnight of that work income is not counted under the pension income test. On top of that, there's a starting credit. New pensioners begin with a $4,000 work bonus balance, and that balance can build up over time to a maximum of $11,800. What that means in real life is you can take on a bit of casual or seasonal work, earn a decent chunk of money, and keep your pension almost untouched, because that income is set aside before the test even looks at you. Put those two things together, the health card for the self-funded and the work bonus for the still working, and you have two levers that can add up to thousands of dollars a year, both of them sitting there right now, both of them missed by people who assumed the system had nothing left to offer them. That's the shift I want for you, from worrying about what might be taken to knowing exactly what you can claim, because that's what today was really about. 3 changes coming at you from the dark, and you just turn the light on. The deeming rate that can shrink your pension while your savings sit still. The super changes in that frozen $3 million line creeping toward the middle. The thresholds that move twice a year and never send you a letter when they move in your favor. And the card and the bonus that can hand real money back to people who thought they'd been shut out for good. You didn't get caught out today. You got ahead of it. That feeling in your chest right now, that's not fear anymore. That's control. And that's who you are, isn't it? You're not the type to sit quietly and take whatever number lands in your account and assume it must be right. You're the type who reads the fine print, or who watches someone like me read it, so nobody moves a line under your feet without you knowing. So let me ask you something specific, and I really do want your answer. When you logged in and looked, or when you think about that deemed income figure on your statement, what number did you find? And have you ever been knocked back for a payment years ago and just accepted it as final, the way my brother-in-law did? Tell me in the comments below. And while you're there, tell me which part of the country you're watching from, because I like to know who's out there looking out for themselves. from the city to the bush. If any of this helped, do one thing for me. Subscribe and stay with this group. We're a growing crowd of Australians who refuse to be blindsided, who share the warnings early so none of us gets caught alone. Because there's another change I'm digging into right now, a shift in how age pension payments are being reviewed against your bank data, quietly, in the background, and when I've got the full picture, I want to be the one who tells you first. Look after your money, check those numbers this week, and I'll see you in the next one. That was only the overview. Inside the Pension Watch, I take you through the full deeming defense with your savings mapped out step by step. And if something still doesn't make sense, you can ask me directly, a real person, me answering you myself. You won't be doing this alone. So many older Australians like you are already inside. Just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen, and you can cancel anytime.